There's a song that we sing. The youth group likes it, and I think we've sung it here on Sunday mornings, and it's Be still and know that I am God. And we sing that over and over. And there's other verses to it, but today I want to talk about that song and that part of the song, the Be still and know that I am God. Because I think a lot of times we get into worship services and we start singing and a lot of times we're thinking about the song as trying to make it sound good, and sometimes we're not even thinking about that. And sometimes we're thinking about what's for lunch or what's after this, or how the song leader has a booger. I don't know. We talk about a lot of different things, and when we get into worship and we're singing these songs, our minds have a tendency to drift. And so what I'm doing with the teenagers on Wednesday night, and what I want to talk to you about today is some of the songs that we sing and really getting some more meaning out of them, so that when we do sing them, we can think about this and we can let it sink in a little bit more. This song in particular, Be Still and Know, we see it in Psalm chapter 46, verse 10. It says there, he says, talking about God, Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. And so as we sing this song, the Be Still and Know that I am God, we're not singing that from the point of view where we're saying we are literally God, obviously. We're singing it to one another and letting ourselves hear it back to ourselves as coming from God. We're quoting this psalm, this direct message from God, saying, Be still and know that He is God. We have a lot of stressful things in our life. I'm sure you have things going on in your life that are stressful. If you look on the news and you look on TV, there's things in our world around us that are not still, to say the least. Things are crazy, but they always have been and they always will be in our lives and in our world. But here, this psalm simply reminds us to be still. To be still and to know who really is God, and that it's not us. And it says that this God, He will be exalted among all the nations, not just ours. That He will be exalted in the earth. The entirety of the earth is going to one day see the glory of God and see how exalted He is. And that word exalted, what does it mean? It means to be put up, to placed on a high spot. If you've ever won a tournament or gotten a trophy, that's you being exalted. It's people saying, look how good they did. Look how good they are. And so we see in this verse that one day our God is going to be exalted. He's going to be lifted up by the entire world, by every single nation. And they're going to look at our God and look at it and say, look how awesome He is. And with that knowledge, it should help us to then be still. And there's a couple other verses in the Bible, actually more than a couple, that talk about this idea of being still. And we're going to go through just a couple really quick as a reminder to us about what it means to be still. In Exodus chapter 14, verse 14, it says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only be still. In Exodus, you have the story of God's people leaving Egypt and being saved by God. And it's nothing that they did themselves. It's God delivering them and saving them. So one way to help us remember to be still is to remember that, number one, we're not God. And to remember that actually God is on our team. And so there's no need for us to rage and fight against the world when He's already in control. And He will fight for us. All we have to do is be still. And then let's go back to Psalm chapter 37, verse 7. Is another one talking about being still. And it says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Fret not yourself over the one who prospers in his way, over the man who carries out evil devices. We have a tendency to get caught up in what other people are doing. I don't know if you are like this, but for sure, me, I see my friends and sometimes I get jealous of them. They see me. I'm sure that happens the same way. We have a tendency to look at the greener grass on the other side and, get ourselves all worked up, especially when we look over across the fence and that person who's prospering is an evil person. The person who's doing so well is someone who is not doing right. And the person who is carrying out evil things is running about unchecked. We look at that and we're bothered by it. Rightfully so. as Christians, as people who are trying to do right, we should be bothered by evil. We should be bothered by people doing evil and profiting off of those things. The problem is that sometimes we lose perspective when we get upset. We think about these bad things happening and these bad people, and suddenly we think it's our job to carry out justice. It's our job to get upset at the very least, and we let it affect us and build up anger and weirdness inside of us, when really all we need to do is wait patiently for the Lord. Because one day he's going to come and he's going to knock the door down, and he's going to eliminate every injustice. He's going to eliminate every problem, and he's going to fix things to the way he always meant them to be. And he tells us here, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. All right. And so if we do that, we can wait on him. Psalm 62. Here's another one. For God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is from him. God alone is where our hope comes from. Again, it says, wait in silence. You know, if you grew up like I did, there was probably a point in time where your parents told you, hey, be quiet. And usually they were telling that to me a lot because I like to talk a lot. And they would get on to me and be quiet. And sometimes it would be I was asking question after question after question after question. And, you know, it was one of those things where with Owen, when he does this to me, sometimes I just want to grab him by the shoulders and be like, Owen, I've got you. You know, sometimes it's hard for Owen to understand when I'm telling him to do things that it's actually for his benefit. Everything I do for him, I don't do anything with him that's not for him. You know, I do things for him because I love him, and I'm going to take care of him, and I'm going to make sure things turn out well in the end. And so when I tell him not to touch the stove, it's not because I'm being a meanie head. It's because I don't want him to get burned. And so this part here where it says, for God alone, O my soul, wait in silence, for my hope is in him. It's almost like we can hear God telling us like, hey, be quiet. I've got this. I love you. And by the way, what we should be wanting anyway is him, is God. That's who we should be hoping for and wanting in the first place. Then, I know we're moving really quickly, but I just kind of want to hit these verses. Job chapter 6, verse 24 says, this is Job talking. He says, teach me, and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. And you may know the story of Job, right? He has these terrible, terrible things happen to him. And he goes and he's just in mourning over all these bad things that are happening to him. His wife tells him just to give up and die. And his friends come to him. And for a while they sit with him, and they do the right thing, and they just sit and they're just with him and in his presence. But then eventually they kind of get to the point where they feel comfortable with it, and they're just like, hey man, what in the world did you do to deserve this? And they're wrong. This isn't something Job did. There's nothing Job did to deserve these terrible things that happened to him. But he's asking that same question. He's saying, God, teach me. There's two things going on. Number one, at the very end, he says, make me understand how I've gone astray. That's the bad part. It's not that he's done anything wrong or that he's gone astray, but the first part, he's in the right. Teach me, and I will be silent. Are we ready to do that? Are we ready to be silent and not rage against the world and not rage against, you know, everything that's going on and the stresses in our life and the people that make us mad? Are we ready to be silent before God? Finally, one more verse. Psalm 131, verse 2 says, but I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with his mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. This verse talks about the idea of a child who's slowly being taken off the milk of their mother, and how, you know, eventually, you know, a child, you know, we're in the midst of this right now. We have a 5-month-old, and when it is time to eat, she will let you know very quickly and very loudly. She cries, and when she does, she wants her bottle. But Owen, he's off of that now. Obviously, he eats his own food, and, you know, when he's with his mom or when he's with me, he can be calm. He doesn't always need something. He can be restful and be quiet and just be sated, I guess, ready to be just okay. with a newborn child that is hungry. It's just this overwhelming need to cry and to get what she needs and get what she wants. And so this verse, this idea of being quiet with God, is not just always needing, not just always looking for something, not just always reaching and grabbing, but being able to just be content with God, to be content with having Him, because our hope is Him anyway. We want to listen and learn from Him anyway. We want to wait patiently for Him because we know He's going to have justice is going to come out in the end. We can be still with Him because we know He's going to fight for us. We don't have to do it for ourselves. We can be still and know that He is God. And so whenever we're singing this song, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. It shouldn't just be this flippant thing we're saying. We should be thinking about how powerful of a statement that is. How powerful of a directive that is to us as we sing it, to just be still and know that He is God. To be still and know that He is God. And we should just, as we're saying that, we should be talking to ourselves and telling ourselves, be still. It's like we can just imagine God hugging us and grabbing us and saying, be still and know that I am God. I've got you. You don't have to rage against the world. You don't have to stress. You don't have to be worried. You don't have to live your life in a constant state of, upsetness, because I've got you. I love you. Be still and know that I am God. In the same way that when one of my children gets hurt, I scoop them up and I hug them and I shh. It's okay. It's okay. What I mean is, be still and know that I'm your Father and I've got you and I love you. God is telling that to us when we sing this song, when we read these verses. He's pulling us up in a world that's hurting us, and He's saying, I know it hurts, but be still and know that I am God. Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my life, my strength.